Okay, here we are on the 6th of November, and I'm just going to say a few words about Palestine because Palestine is a situation near to all of our hearts. When I say Palestine, I mean the Middle East peace process, of course. I'm going to talk about Israel, but I'm going to deal with that separately. But I'm only talking about Israel in so much as it affects Palestine in this instance and in the context of the Middle East peace process. So, what do we got? We've got a new US president. Exciting, isn't it, everybody? And it's going to be Biden. And so what does that mean? What does that mean for all of us? Well, he's going to go for a kind of moral leadership, and he will be more cautious about his alliances with what he calls autocrats, like the governments of Turkey and Saudi Arabia. However, in the Palestinian context, long-standing American support for Israel will not end during Biden's tenure. He is a self-proclaimed Zionist. He's a self-proclaimed Zionist. So that's just a fact of life. So a few reflections on Palestine going forward. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain have recognized Israel, putting the way forward for Saudi Arabia to do so down the line. It's not going to be Oman or one of these countries. No, why is it not going to be? Because Oman, whom you might like to think might do that next, will not do that next because Oman likes to take a neutral stance. Also, the new Sultan is slightly annoyed with Israel anyway. Because he held out a hand of fellowship to Netanyahu in his early days and was suggesting that Oman might somehow broker talks between Israel and Iran, and Netanyahu slapped him down pretty firmly. And so people don't like that. So it's not going to be Oman, the Sultanate of Oman. But Saudi Arabia, yes, because Biden's support for Saudi Arabia is going to weaken. And because he doesn't like Saudi Arabia. That's for why. He doesn't like autocratic governments of the Saudi stamp. So Biden's support for Saudi Arabia is going to weaken. So Saudi Arabia will want to get in with Biden. Biden is very pro-Israel. So what can Saudi do? All it can do is recognize Israel. It'll be the next step, in my view. And so you'll have this triumvirate. And they do work together, after all. The United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia recognizing Israel. However, and let me be clear, I mean, not all bad news for Palestine with regard to Biden. He does believe and back a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict. But don't have rose-tinted glasses here. He would not move the American embassy back to Tel Aviv or ever withhold military aid to Israel in order to strong-arm Israel in some way. He will, however, do other things that they're not going to please the Palestinians. They might please others down the line, but not the Palestinians. Yeah, so Saudi Arabia, I think, will recognize Israel. And that ensures Iran stays out in the cold. Of course, not entirely, because Biden is already committed to doing the honourable thing with regard to the talks with Iran and the deal that has been negotiated with Iran led by France and others. So yes, like Obama, he will do that. He will sign up to the nuclear deal, and fine, but it's not going to go. He's not going to really fall in love with Iran, and that'll please Israel, and that's okay, I guess. These are exciting times. I mean, there are sad aspects to them, and from the point of view of Palestine, the downside of the recognition of the State of Israel by the United Arab Emirates and subsequently by Bahrain. As far as the Palestinians are concerned, this economically driven recognition, I mean, it was they're quids in for doing it. They're really doing well out of Israel, the United Arab Emirates. And Bahrain, of course, was already virtually, I mean, it had recognition, how do you say, de facto, but not de jure of Israel. It was, I mean, Bahrain has had Jewish ambassadors to the United States and or a Jewish ambassador, famously. And Bahrain has a strong Jewish community, but more than that, Israel has been training Bahrain's police force for years. For years. I mean, Israel is very, very closely linked with Bahrain. So this is just putting it in practice. I mean, prominent Bahrainis have visited Israel, including one friend of mine, a prominent member of the royal family, Sheikh Mubarak. Okay, he's a bit of a renegade, but he's visited Israel. In a way, he was a trailblazer. So where do we go here? I mean, the problem with all this recognition of Israel by the Arab states as far as the Palestinians are concerned is that it means the phased introduction of the Abdullah Plan, or the Beirut Initiative, if you prefer to call it by its official name, the Arab Plan, or whatever, is no longer a priority for Israel, if it ever was. Israel held back from engaging with that plan, which was a gift to Israel. I mean, this plan, the phased introduction of the Abdullah Plan, this concept was one that we pushed at the Next Century Foundation and was very much backed by Mohammed Shaka, the head of the Egyptian Council on Foreign Relations. Late Mohammed Shaka, he died last year, with the world is a poorer place for the loss of him. Visionary man. He saw it as the way out. The phased introduction of the Abdullah Plan, instead of going for it all in one whomp. It's a delightful idea, but the UAE and Bahrain have undermined that now because they've gone ahead with recognition for Israel. The fiction that recognition saves the West Bank from being absorbed by Israel is a fiction. Of course. That's a nonsense. It doesn't, I mean, Israel was not going to absorb, annex. Well, maybe. But the UAE Bahrain recognition is not a factor in all this in a real sense. It had already, that card had been played. That card was not going forward prior to the UAE and Bahrain's recognition of Israel. No, it's a clever move by the United Arab Emirates that brings them dollars, big dollars. And that's what they like, and people do. It's also a kind of a snub. I mean, yes, there were all sorts of tensions with Iran, and Iran had made, you noticed a change in policy by Iran. Iran now makes its first line of attack the Gulf states. If an attack comes from the Gulf states, it was mentioned earlier this year. I mean, Iran said that UAE was a target. So there's some bite back from this. I mean, the UAE had a double-edged, good cop, bad cop approach to this. They sent their senior military leaders scuttling off to Tehran to try and soften up Iran. But meanwhile, good cop, bad cop, they recognized Israel. Yes, it's a kind of insurance policy in a sense. It's interesting times, interesting days. And this moment in time does represent a huge opportunity for Palestine. The Palestinians should be putting their own plan together to be presented to Biden. And what should that plan be? Well, it should involve UN recognition of Palestinian statehood. That's what I would aim for. The old Balfour Initiative, I used to poo-poo that for years, but it's a blooming good initiative, led by people like Imad Karam and others, and some dear friends, Sir Vincent Feen. You know, it's a good initiative. It's a good, solid initiative. It's one that puts Israel on the spot. And why not? I mean, Palestine has every chance of going this way. I always remind my Palestinian friends that Israel declared independence without a constitution, without defined borders, and without a capital. It had no capital city. when it declared independence in 1948. So unilaterally, of course, and then was recognized by the world. But if the UN Security Council recognized Palestinian statehood, I mean, Biden believes in the two-state solution. It would be an interesting way of moving. I know that Sir Keir Starmer has backed off a little from this, and Labour has backed off a little from this. A shame in a way for Palestine, but yes, he's going a different way. So we won't see a British lead on this, despite the fact that it is British Labour Party policy. At least I don't think we will. But oddly enough, Biden is curiously principled. He's a one-term president, and one-term presidents can take risks. So interesting. I would say that would change the game if Palestine got Security Council recognition. Am I dreaming? Well, maybe. In any case, Palestinians should be putting together their own peace plan to Biden. I mean, that's a thing that Tony Klug, that wonderful peace activist, has argued for consistently, and he's not so wrong. And I think, it should be done, and it should be done now. Palestine's been too complacent. I think sometimes, I said this 1,000 times, the old issue of Palestine failing to engage in peace talks, because they say, well, we can't do peace talks until Israel stops building settlements, and Israel rubs its hands with glee and says, we'll keep building settlements because it means we don't have to engage in peace talks, and it's the Palestinians' decision. Oh, come on. Palestine has been pretty pathetic in so many ways for too long. You've got to man up, grow up. They've got such wrinkly leadership. I'm not blaming them for that. I'm getting wrinkly myself. But come on, guys. Either deliver or move over and let the younger generation of Fatah step forward, because you old ones are not helping. Palestine needs to put forward ideas and get moving, I think, just my opinion. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say on this subject. Joseph Biden is President of the United States of America. In case you hadn't noticed, I may argue about it for a while, but it's the way it is. And goodbye, Donald Trump. And it's an opportunity for Palestine. And Palestine should step up to the mark. Okay, God bless you. Thank you. Bye.